Hi, welcome to this brief video. So the Kenny Veach documentary came out in recent time, 28th of November. Prior to that date, I did make a previous video giving my predictions of the outcome of the documentary and the way it could slant. So now, am I right or am I wrong in what I said? Well, based off what viewers of the documentary have said, like Jeff, Claire, Leanna, Atari and Susan, there's been kind of like a consensus of disappointment in terms of the outcome of it. What good did it do? What did it lead to? That sort of thing. Now, some of the individual predictions I made at the time for this upcoming documentary was, okay, so it's good, it's coming out, more coverage, more publicity, it might help, it might bring more people in who could solve the mystery or might know something, others don't. Yeah. One thing I will say on a quick side note is, yeah, I guess there has been more traffic in recent time in the mystery. I think on my channel, at least, for me at least, is probably because of TikTok and other platforms, people hearing about it and then coming along. So that's kind of interesting. But back to the predictions. One of the few predictions I made to do with the documentary was, how are they going to sway it? What are they going to cover? Is it going to be all about military, talking about that, pushing the Area 51 idea, aliens, abduction, and, you know, secret entrances and stuff, Kenny getting silenced, maybe kidnapped? And, you know, in a way, yeah, they did talk about that sort of stuff. But surprisingly, maybe not as much as you would have expected, or as much as I expected. From what Jeff Claus said, yeah, sure, they talked about Area 51 and stuff, but they didn't talk about military land takeover, like how they did in the past and maybe in more recent time. Nothing about that. And, you know, it's quite a key point because, you know, it just shows the authority and presence and the intervention of military presence to begin with, which could have resulted in Kenny's disappearance, but they didn't really tie that in, especially with the land where Kenny was hiking in, and that was going to become restricted and owned by military full on. Why is it not mentioned in the documentary? That is kind of odd and strange, is it not? So, aside from that prediction, yeah, to an extent, I was kind of right, but there could have been more talked about, yet there wasn't. One of the most central predictions was, depending how the documentary is constructed and the way the interviews are performed, it could be slanted in a certain direction, which makes people believe in a certain idea more than another idea, which could be the truth. And I guess in a way that did happen in this documentary. From what Susan Veach has said herself, she said about kind of like how the way the documentary portrayed me, made me look, and the way I sounded like some crazy conspiracy theorist who's going to believe in what I say. So, you know, I kind of understand that. You know, I think it ties in with numerous reasons, one of which she is kind of like in the minority in a sense. She has her findings, her ideas and evidence, and then the other family members here and there have got theirs, which is differing. And because they may be more in the majority than the minority who's come up to speak up and say it for how it is, there's an imbalance. You've seen it before in real life where a lone individual could say, something bad's going to happen, but everyone else around doesn't believe in it and thinks, nah, you're crazy. And then other people come along and hear it and think, nah, I'm joining with the crowd, joining in with the sheep. So in a way, it kind of applies here with the ideas and the evidence Susan had. It wasn't heard as well, listened to as much. Maybe the way the documentary recorded it or slanted it at least. There's many methods used in documentaries to push it a certain way. You'll know, obviously. But aside from that, I'd also say it also ties in with the timing of the interviews. Other family members, I guess Vicky, Sharon's supposed ex-girlfriend, Ray Veach, maybe some other people, they were interviewed about in 2020, last year, okay? So the documentary was already set up to an extent in a certain direction with certain ideas and theories. And then Susan comes along in recent time. I think it was September maybe, 2021, a year later. Now, is the documentary going to believe in what she says? Are they going to be biased because they've already heard statements and reports from people a year beforehand? So You know what I'm saying? It could be they might not listen to it as much or take it in as much, and they've already got a certain idea and concept of how the documentary will play out because it was already planned a year beforehand. And I guess that played a role in this case. That division between maybe certain family members, yeah, I guess so, like with the CCTV footage, how a couple people didn't believe it was Kenny, like Ray Veach, Debbie, but then some other people, like Susan did, and even had screenshots, conversations with other family members who I don't believe were in the documentary, but did say about Kenny being alive and stuff. Yet, I guess that evidence, what Susan had, and the images and the media which she wanted to show and add into the documentary wasn't, I don't believe. Sure, they did show the CCTV footage and talk about it briefly, maybe even talking about fingerprints and stuff, but they didn't really go into the screenshots and stuff what I showed you in my recent video. So why did they leave that out? Is there a certain reason to why? Is it to slant it a certain way? You know what I'm saying? So I think that's like the way it is. And lastly, my final prediction was in a sense of a conclusion. Is there going to be one? Or is it likely going to be like all the other documentaries where they talk, goes on for a couple of hours, and then at the end of it, there's no definitive answer and it just ends abruptly, maybe on a cliffhanger, and then it's made for you to think of what could happen next or what could have been the outcome. And from what Leanna said and all the other people have said, that tends to be the case. And Atari saying how she was disappointed in the way the documentary was portrayed and done, and like what was said and how it ended. So yeah, I said it doesn't surprise me because I've seen it before with other documentaries, or seen it before with other products and other stuff, the way it goes. You know, it's slanted in a certain direction, it's going to remain that way. What we'll say is like if certain family members and certain people who are in a higher profession or a certain position, they're more likely to be listened to. I mean, you got Sharon, girlfriend, psychologist, or at least worked in that field or learned or studied about it, working with people, helping people. So if she's going to say Kenny had mental issues, then people are very, very likely to believe in it if she's in a certain field of that area. People think she's an expert. She might be an expert, so people will listen to what she has to say. Don't mean to say that that's exactly what Kenny was going through, though. Unless there's like some like official documents, papers and stuff like that saying this is what Kenny's got or this is what's been diagnosed, and yeah, okay, then it's a different story, but we've not come across that. So, you know what I'm saying? And like I was saying, there was, you know, potential suicide with Kenny's gun, but, you know, the gun's not been found. Kenny's not been found, so you can only suggest that it could have been a suicide, not that it was. So don't mean to say his health caused him to do a certain action. Might not have helped him, but might not have led to it. So it's just trying to get the balance, not going too far, because you go too far, you got to make sure you got enough evidence to prove it, and that doesn't always seem to be the case. And I guess as well, like with the mental health agenda and pushing that idea, which, you know, okay, is a valid point to make and possible, but not to go too all in on it, you know what I'm saying? Like, oh, I've done it with certain areas, I've not gone too all in because it's just not worth it. It might not be appropriate or might not be sufficient evidence to prove a certain point, as of previous stuff in the past. But yeah, like with the mental health awareness and all that going around, like how there's been for the past few years in real life, maybe certain people jumping on the bandwagon as well and stuff like that, how it's been overused, abused, manipulated and used as a scapegoat, you know. I can get into a future video if you want me to talk about all of that. But yeah, people, the viewers, the audience who might see what certain family members have to say about Kenny's state, his health, you know, there's a lot of people who have got issues themselves that might resonate more, they might apply themselves more and believe in it much more stronger than the possibility of a supposed crazy theory, because they've been through certain things that they might think they know what Kenny's going through. You know what I'm saying? Stuff like that. So as said, there was only so many predictions I could make at the time in a realistic way and for it to be, you know, valid. So yeah. Who knows what will happen next or what could be covered next. But yeah, for now, thanks for watching and I'll see you in the next one. Goodbye.